life cycle is like leverage of firms, but over the life cycle. And there's a lot of people that explain that if you're a small firm, you are more external finance dependent. You need more bank loans because you are a peak and you don't have your internal finance to finance your operation. So the finance needs interest across firms and over the life cycle. There are actually papers that studies who need more money and they find out that the leverage decreases over the life cycle, so we need a higher volume in the beginning and it decreases over time with your age and it increases with your time. Okay?
So with that factor.
And we are going to, okay, so the idea is that we are going to account all of the life cycle characteristics of the firm, while the previous literature just introduced the heterogeneity in a different way, in a static type of model. Okay, let me show you because you are going to get more idea once you see the model. Let me finish what we are going to do next. We are going to calibrate the model because our whole idea is to quantify the effect of the challenge before. That's why we are going to calibrate the model and match the life cycle dynamics of the firms, basically the average size, survival, and share of the employment of the cohort, or the 5 years of occupation in portfolio. And then use this model that we think that represents the representative firm model to quantify how much the entry and exit is going to be amplified in the 74 case. I'm going to skip the introduction. Basically, you get the main research question. The research question is how much and how entry and exit is going to be important to explain this slow recovery from the sovereign default. Okay? In order to persuade that this is actually the case, that we see the association between sovereign default risk and entry and exit, we're going to use the Portugal data from Portugal. And the why we are going to use and main data analysis from Portugal is third, where it was severely during the European default crisis, and we saw how much the spread basically increased during the default crisis. Unlike Spain and Ireland, Portugal did not suffer from housing market, okay, because it was a great recession period. You might think that the fact that I'm showing you might come from great recession or there was a housing boom and the household also suffered and the demand shock happened here. So in Portugal, the housing market, there was no housing market and households did not suffer this recession. They were taxed by the recession because of the low income, okay, and it kept a lot of money. They also didn't have some political turmoil or any other major debt level before the 74 crisis. And most importantly, why we choose that they have high quality public data that we can rely and the Eurostat when they report the data, they are kind of always making sure that the data is fine. For example, the data is asking for Greece and Ireland, and for Italy there was a lot of major changes in the data, and you see that it's not consistent over time. Okay?
Yeah, one thing that in my mind thinking about it. You know, you said that the local banks, right, they're having so much trouble because the balance sheet problem. But what about foreign banks? Like in EU, all banks in European Union face similar regulation. Yeah. Right? There's no reason why, if there's an opportunity, for example, a Deutsche Bank to invest in Italy, because the local banks in Italy can't lend out, then why wouldn't Deutsche Bank come in and just...
Yeah, okay, so... That's the answer to a data question. Yeah? So like, do we see that how much lending for firms come from foreign banks? Yes. What you're going to see is that the data that the other papers and the paper but said that most of the firms, like 97 of the firms, are borrowing from the local banks in Portugal. Okay, they are only using 2% of the foreign bank. If you go like the difference between total lending to the non-private sector, like households and let's say total bank, you also see the dominant banking sector of the dominant bank. Why you don't see foreign banks coming inside? I cannot answer that, but what you see in the data is that during the 74 crisis, the domestic banks decreased lending more than the foreign banks, for example. That could be an answer that they do not. But the difference between that is really big.
Is that also true for Italy? Because I can imagine Portugal more like that, Italy is more pronounced to Europe.
Yeah, so like Italy they are big economies, yes, and they are really connected to other markets too. And then we are like Portugal is a small open economy in this sense, okay? So in Italy, what I can say, there are papers, most of the papers, when they are trying to study the balance sheet channel, they find out that the balance sheet channel works in Italy significantly. They are using the Italy's like bank data and religion data, and they find out that the banks that are more exposed to sudden default, interest rate increases like 60%. So the transmission channel is at 60%. So I guess whether it's a big country or not, the balance sheet channel works also for that. But to give you an idea about Portugal, the country, what I find out is that the firms are mostly borrowing from domestic firms. Okay? Domestic firms are mostly holding government bonds, own government bonds, like Portuguese government bonds. If you want to check whether they were exposed to Italy and Spain or Ireland or Greek government bonds, they are really, okay, they're exposed. So basically, if something that happens to the government is going to affect it. Okay, so we are going to choose the annual business demographic data set provided by Eurostat from 2004 to 2018 or 2005. Business economic set activities of holding companies, these are basically oil industry, construction, and service sector. You're not going to include the activities of holding companies, these are basically companies that just try to transfer the money from one company to their holding the fund. We are going to choose for an employer business. The enterprise force data is defined as a first in the United States. Basically, it could be many locations, but it has the authority to do its own operations,
Yeah, there's just a quick question. Do I want to know what the frequency of the data is?
It's an annual data. It's going to be an annual data, yes.
Okay.
And it's firm level data, okay? We also have sector to be sector level. But right now I'm going to use an aggregated that will show the application. So we are going to use the employer enterprises. That means that the firm needs to have at least one employee. There are data that show zero-size enterprises, but we're not going to use this one because most of the employment is going to come from the employer enterprises. And we are going to control some part of why these non-employer enterprises are created. Yes, so we care about the business that grow and contribute to.
What is the criteria for?
So they need to have at least one paid employee. So it needs to be a contract. It might be just like a different type of remuneration or something like that, but it needs to be a contract between the firm and the employee. Okay? Okay. So sometimes when they are zero-size enterprises, there could be a person that just works there, but they are not paid or there is no contract. And it's going to be called a person, not an employee. Okay? But for these firms, we are also going to count the persons that are working there. But we are just going to consider the structure of the firms that has this contract employees. And they will be only 37% of the total sample, but they are going to employ 83%. This statistic is same for all the other countries. For Italy, Spain, these are the firms that we create employees.
Yeah, so why do you need to include, like I get it that there's a minority of employment, right? But they can still.
For the clean data and clean data and basically they are driving everything because maybe they are like this for like 60% of the employer, but they cannot really tell us how much the employer business is increased or employment. But you can do the same and calculate it stuff. But our claim is that, and also about one of the statistic data set that the service firm is actually grow and provide employment and consistent operation. So we are going to provide the following part. First, we are going to show the association between balance before crisis and the entry expense. The first three figures are going to be very familiar figures in 74 which during the balance before crisis, 2010, 2012, salary spread increase. During the same time, corporate spread increase also. Yes, it will be interesting what happens with the interest rate during the same time. what we see that in 2010 and how we calculate interest rate for those first spread is going to be interest rate in Portugal to non-financial firms or private firms minus the interest rate in Germany to control every other movement that is happening during this time. Yeah? So the difference is going to give you an increase in the interest, the cost of financing for Portugal. Right. And we see that it starts increasing in 2000. That's like that and speed. And this is an important figure that drops with the same time and continues to be lower, even after like 4 years or so. Now what happens to the entry? Entry of firms, this is the number of employer businesses that were created during this time. It's going to fall during the Great Recession. Okay? This is compared to 2007. Okay? It's going to fall around like 22% during the Great Recession. Then in 2010, it's going to go back. And starting from 2010, we also very nicely see that it falls in 2012. Yes, and the fall was around like 20%. Okay. And then after the crisis resolved, it's an association. But after the crisis resolved, the number of the entrants went back to first salary level. Okay. So now what we see about this? About the exit of funds, we see that starting from 2010, the number of registered. So of course, the situation will be affected by the Great Recession. Yes, the increase started during the Great Recession, but in 2010, increase also everything was also, and then sharply decreased after the evolution of salary. Yes, it's like 2012, and this is what. Why don't you see exactly the sharp increase in exit? You need to keep in mind that this is an endogenous one. If you see less entrance, that means that you will see less exit rate. Yes, because the exit is mostly comprised or constituted new first. Yes. So if you are combining these two pictures, you see that the total number of firms falls significantly over the same period, and the picture was not transcribed. So what I want you to take from this picture is that during the silent default crisis, we see the lower entrance and higher exit. Okay. Also, what I want to show you that it's not only the entrance that could be potentially contributing, like lower entry or higher entry, that could be potentially contributing to the silent default. But I'm going to show you that the entrance, that operation during the time, this entrance that was exposed to the high silent default risk, was going to be characterized with different life cycle dynamics. Yes.
So is the right way to think about C and F together? Because C goes down to like, I don't know, 87 and F to, I don't know, 90 or so.
Yeah.
Does that mean that of continuing firms, there's basically very little change in employment? Is that?
Yes.
Right. If you add those up and you get continuing firms at, I don't know, like 2 or 3% of the decline?
I wouldn't say this side. I feel like that because it's not really but they match very much correlate with each other. And it's not only for Portugal, but it's more of other countries. Like if you go back and I draw the same picture for the number of firms, you are going to see that the similar picture for the employment for this country. So that was the last year when I tried to motivate the paper. This was the motivation that there is a high correlation between employment dynamics and number of firm dynamics. The number of firms was the combination of the and the. You have this partial reserve at 40 years. For SI. Supplemental instruction. When you're every Monday, Wednesday at 4 p.m. We have it reserved on like the Children's Reservation website.
Yeah, reserve this time.
Sorry, I didn't want to do it. It's just the bottom thing. But we have been last week here, yes? before last or
Yes, I mean, I have a room reservation here. It's for Miller 207, correct?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have this from room reservation reserved Wednesdays, 3:30 to 5:30 p.m., August 18th to November 24th.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Oh, yeah. Am I losing my mind?
Wow, Nick.
I don't think so. That was first meeting.
Okay, so
Could ask for reviews.
I get 2 more minutes. Okay, so what's happening is that we already showed the extensive market. I'm going to show you that it could be more than that because the entrance that all the composers were exposed to high for free was going to be actually different in their potential of creation. So if
I have a question. So, you could also tell a bit more between solving the forward and your entry and exit story if you think about the non-side. These countries that you're thinking about, right? The main employer is public sector. Right? So if there's a huge problem with people, then there's a huge shock in consumer demand.
yes,
Right? And that could mean that there's an impact because there's lack of consumption.
yes.
So my question is, why do you choose the balance sheet channel to explore this problem rather than thinking from one point?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the first of all, there could have been a demand channel too, a little bit. Especially like if I would have been taking like Spain was really affected by the recession. Demand dropped significantly because there was a huge housing and households were home in yes. But I chose the Portugal where the households were not significantly affected during the time by the Great Recession. Okay? But there are 3 types of channels that could have worked here. Yes, there could be a demand side channel, there could be the balance sheet channel, and there is also the overnight channel. So right now what we're going to see, and the first thing that we started was just that we took the paper that was the most trying to create the idea how selling people was transferred to the economy. And we wanted within the same model, extend the model, and show that how much in the model entering the people was affecting. But now the answer would be that I'm going to show you that that was the actual channel. That was. I couldn't tell you what is the transmission magnitude. Yes, there could be that it could transmit it like selling the portfolio increases, it increases interest rate by 10%, and it affected insurance to right. And I'm saying that the final goal of the paper is to identify how much all this decrease was due to the selling default. Yes? But right now I don't have that. What I'm trying to say is that if there is an association between high selling default and its effect on the entry, decreasing entry and decrease, it's going to have a much stronger propagating power than any intensive market change. Okay? And if we are arguing about the transmission, so in Italy, for example, in the 2 papers claiming that 1% increase in spread is going to translate 60% out of 1%, 0.6% of the difference. So translate into spread. Okay? So 60% is the transmission between spread and the corporate spread. And then depending how interest rate affects the firms is going to explain the entry dynamics, yeah. But the goal right now, the initial goal of the paper, now it's more ambitious, but was to show that extensive merging matters more for propagating selling default than intensive market that is discussed in the paper. Okay, so what I'm showing you that I'm going to show you the cohort, and don't follow the cohort that we're going to use the high selling default rate or 5. And I'm going to compare that to the other one. The cohort that we are born after having high selling default rate, that is the cohort between 2013 and 2018, the one that I have now in data, to the cohort that was born in 2010, and the third one is going to the cohort that was born in the high selling default rate. I'm going to call the cohort as the cohort that is post to high selling default rate. Yes, I don't know whether the difference comes from the selling default rate so far. So what I see is that when entry drops, the lower number of friends at entry implies that this probably always have lower number of friends over time. Yes? because you see the persistent difference between the cohorts that were born after the 74 on average and during the 70. Yeah? This is the cohort that was born in 2010. Initially, it was same as 2013 cohort, but because they also faced the exit rate, apparently, this 2010 was affected by it. And our interest is in treatment. Now what we see also is that the firms that we are born during the high 74 risk not only are smaller, fewer, but they also employ less number of people, even older. Okay? This is an average employment of the cohort. This is the employment of the cohort compared to the cohort that was born in 2000. So which means that it's not the only problem that we see lower number of entrants here, but this cohort will always contribute to the smaller employment for over time. Okay? Then you could ask, like, is this an extensive margin, lower number of entrants, or the entrants that entered into the market might have been like different size and different type of entrants, yes? So in this case, I can plot the average size of entrants that I could use as a proxy how different they are from different cohorts. And as you see, the cohort that was born during the high 74 crisis seems to be having a similar average size and growth as the cohort that was after the 74 crisis. Okay?
So it's not like a, I mean, it's not like a time age cohort
Yes.
issue thing going on here.
That's what I'm trying to catch.
No, like saying like in regression, it's like sometimes you want to include cohorts, age, and time,
yes.
but you can't.
That I'm more kind of close. Yes.
What?
So this is not a regression. What I'm showing you is that I'm taking two cohorts. Yes, this is a cohort that we are exposed to high 74. The cohort that is control. Yes. I am plotting them with age. So I'm telling you that this is red one is a cohort at age 0, but I know when it was born. Yes. So I'm taking the cohort effect and I'm taking the age effect too.
But there's also like time effect, right?
Yes, but the difference is going to be a time. The claim that I'm making is that the difference is a time effect. Because they were born during the 74 crisis, they had less number of people here and seem to be having less number of people over time. I'm not claiming why it came. What I'm saying is that the fact that they were born during the high 74 crisis, they turned out to be different over 5 years of their operation compared to the similar age cohort born different. So it's like basically a time effect. This cohort were born at different times. This cohort was during the high 74 crisis. And what I want to show that it seems that they are different. And they employ different number of people over time. Okay? And then I also show that it's the average size seems not to be very different from the cohort that were born during the 74 crisis and after the 74 crisis. Yes? And average size is a proxy how different this cohort could be. Yes? Is it just a number effect or the characteristic effect or just for the extensive happiness? And if you look at that if the average size is not different and you see lower employment, the first thing that you think it could be that the lower number of firms will be measured for the job creation. Okay, to conclude this fact, what the following. So what I showed you is that the high 74 risk is associated with fewer entries and high exits. Yes. And the cohort that were born during the high 74 risk or were exposed to high 74 risk consisted with fewer firms and also employed fewer workers, not only at entry but over time. Okay, so it's like a persistent life cycle cohort effect that you need to keep in mind if you want to fully quantify the effect of the sovereign risk. And heterogeneous paradigm. Okay? And then finally, or I don't know why it skipped, is that the next question that you could have is that how much entrance will contribute to the aggregate employment? And it's really small. It's like a 3% of the aggregate employment. But when you aggregate and calculate the cumulative effect, these three cohorts imply like 2% to drop in the total application income. But this is not a significant number. You see that it's only 16% of the drop. But what is significant is that this drop stays. It does not recover over time. And the idea was it does not recover from the picture you saw that the central really or the cohort really employs small number of friends, employs small number of people persistently all the time. Okay? Go ahead.
What is the difference between the employment graph and the site graph?
So, okay. This is how many people you create. That's how many people you employ within the cohort. So this cohort was born using a high salary default pricing, and this is how many jobs they create. Yes. So how many employment they create. Yes. Job creation would be like new jobs, but like total number of employees employed by the cohort. Okay.
This is average for each.
No, this is the total cohort employment. Total cohort employment. So if you go to the data and you find out what is the total employment, this is an amount of people employed by this cohort. And this is an employment employed by another cohort employment after just the salary default price. And total employment is just the combination of all level of cohort employment.
And the size was per one.
Yeah, but when I showed you that, like, you could ask that this cohort employed, like, because maybe the firms that entered into the market, they didn't create more jobs, yes? Firms were just small. But the size just told you that, you know, the firms that entered, on average, have the same size and same size growth. The problem seems to be that there were lower firms entered into the market, okay? Anyway, this was just, and then showing the things that we need to be looking after. Once we take into account and feel that this is this persistent dropping employment. So.
Do you see any difference in terms of types? Because I assume that like later, what the sort of cohort can have more type firms, so they can more closely in terms of employment.
Yes. Okay. So I don't know. But then I go to like typing is like, is it a type of firm that matters for the lower job creation and the potential, or it was a number that matters? This time when I showed you average size, was trying to persuade you that at least from these pictures or this data that I have, you can find that this was a different, characteristically different type of firm, because average size seems to be fixed. Okay, in the United States, for example, they observed a monetary recession, average size decreases significantly of firms that entered during the recession. And they claim that it's because they are different type of firms. But during the salary default crisis, it seems that the average size does not seem to be different. And you see that I followed them up over 5 years, and the growth rate seems to be similar, yes? Any other questions? Yeah, basically I have 15 more minutes, yes?
Excuse me, I have a question. Could you please go back to the earlier slide?
Okay.
In each one, the number of firms born in 2011 to but in 5 years, like all of them go out of the market.
Could you repeat the question?
The red line in the first graph. In first year there are 30 firms, and at the end of year 5, like.
So after 5 years, so if I take the firms that when they start the operation, and then I find after 5 years how many firms that will be called. Which will be 9.
So that means that most of the firms like
they are existing, they are existing.
Right?
Yeah, so this decline, that means that the time over time, the firms are existing from the market. Yes. So the number of the firms uses the cohort declines over time because of the. For example, if you look at the 2010, the fast decrease was because of the rate, for example, the higher section. Probably. Anyway, so I have more lower time. I don't have much time, let's say like that. Hopefully I persuaded at least it's an interesting thing to consider during the salary default, the entry and exit. Now, because I don't have time, I'm going to tell you that the model is going to compose in consist of different parts. Yeah, so there are going to be a government, household, banks, and firms. The first mechanism is going to be government is going to increase there's going to be an exogenous increase in the digital government default. This is going to decrease banks' net worth and it's going to increase the interest rate. Okay? And there's something that exists already. I'm just going to take it from the existing rate. The new thing that I'm going to add, and I'm going to show you what are exactly the heterogeneity that I have. First level, it's going to be that there will be a life cycle dynamic. There will be a firm deciding to enter into the market, how much to produce, and when to enter into the market. Go ahead, Ken.
So you said the symbol, right? You have one of the
Yeah.
you have the average number of capital per fund relative to the average number of points.
Yeah, I don't, okay, so another thing. So we have, in a Eurostat data, there is no average number of capital. But in audit data, we also have an SEC audit data. We can calculate the number of capital, also, I think there was not a big difference there, but the orbit is less representative of the big economy. Okay, so there is more larger curve represented in the orbit than in the Eurostat. We're going to discuss about it right now, yes, but you don't see that big difference, and we did not investigate it.
So you think it's saying similar numbers?
Similar, even we investigate the productivity, and the average productivity seems to stay the same too. Okay? So, okay. As I told you, interest rate increases. I'm just going to show you what the firms are going to do, and then I'm going to show you the mechanism, and the most we are interested in what you think about the empirical identification of the mechanism. Okay? So, this is increment firms. They're going to have some capital and some productivity. Okay? They are going to wake up and they are going to observe what is the state of the economy. Now you about the state, you can think interest, yes, or whether it's sovereign default risk or not, which is going to be translated in the model as a high interest rate for the firm. Okay? I could also add the demand shock in the model and see the decomposition between demand and sovereign default shock, how much each of them account. But for now, we are just trying to show the propagation effect of the interest. Okay? So then they are going to observe their productivity. And the important thing that we are introducing in the model, or it's not a new one, we're going to make them subject to working capital constraints. We need to make them to need money to grow from the bank, okay? And we say so, and it's a within period law. We are making them borrow money for your working capital or something, and then you need to repay at the end of the period. So that's when the interest rate shows up in the loan. And the amount that you need to borrow is the fee share of the working capital. So it's like a very simple way of modeling the financing needs for the firm. Yeah? So every firm has the same share requirement to finance those like external share funds. Okay? Well, then you understand if the interest rate increases, the financing, the labor and capital investment cost is costly. So they are optimal going to decrease the higher anyway. Okay? Okay? So in the timeline, you see they need to borrow and they need to pay back. And you pay that they are paying some share of the investment or the loan. And then they are going to observe some fixed cost, which is random, and then they are going to decide whether they want to operate or not. Okay? The finance requirement here is going to be simple and it's going to be the same for every firm. But I'm going to show you that these fees, the only parameter that comes to financing risk, if you allow firms to live over time and to have a different size and different age, it's actually going to generate the financing needs over the life cycle that is observed in the data. Okay? So I'm going to show you that when I plot different ages, the leverage is going to decrease over time for the cohort with the age, and it's going to be increasing with the time. Okay? Any questions? No. So now this is an increment first. It's like a very simple intuition.
Leverage is B divided by K.
Leverage is going to end up in B divided by K. Yes. Right. So this is a very simple method, and this picture tells us all. If the R is 5, it's really costly for borrowing to borrow, and then you are definitely going to decrease the investment and the revenue, yeah? What's going to affect it is the R is high and the I invest less for tomorrow. The chance that I'm going to exist on the market is going to go up. Because if I'm a smaller firm, the chance that I will observe a fixed cost that is higher than my continuation value is high. Okay? Let me go and immediately show you how that works. So my continuation value depends on my profit, but how I make the decision to go out from the market, it is I'm comparing my continuation value to the fixed cost that I owe, which is right. Okay? If I invested less because interest rate was high, my continuation value is smaller, so I have a higher probability to go out from the market. And this is a survival function. Survival function increases with your capital. If you are bigger firm, you have a higher rate to survive in the market. If you have a higher probability, also your survival rate increases. But what matters is that how your survival probability changes with interest. If you're a large firm, your survival rate is not affected by interest rate. So it's always one, your survival, whether interest rate is really high or really low. But the firms that are affected with survival probability of the interest rate are the smaller firms, small and medium-sized firms. Okay? Right.
Can you go back to the book again? Why is that increasing capital or increasing survival? I mean, if you have like you're very productive, like and banks if it is like a free market and banks should lend to you, like so why is it that have to have more capital?
Yeah, the more capital increase for survival probability. The probability that you will survive if you have a more capital is higher.
Okay, I have no capital, I'm very productive.
You are very productive and you have a small capital, then first the bank will give you money, but it's really because the probability that you observe is called that you cannot pay.
So yeah. Is that how I deal with time?
Yeah, so you don't borrow for the fixed cost, you borrow for your investment. Well, on the one hand, you can borrow up to the point to avoid this existing from the market, but they optimally cannot choose that because it's really high and costly to pay that. To answer your question. But on the other hand, for a small firm, no matter how productive you are, it's really difficult to signal your productivity. Yes, that's why they call the small and medium-sized firms are more cheap, and they have more problems to finance that. Okay? That's why it's very important that we consider their.
Well, what's the fix of the question for? That's like.
It's just like says that every period you're going to observe a fixed cost that is drawn randomly. You can make it a constant one too, but it just reflects that every firm has some fixed operating cost, yes, that they need to meet.
And then I would want to borrow from bank to cover it, and what's the next one?
I'm not allowing you now to borrow, you would not even borrow, like optimally borrow. Because if you wanted to borrow, you could have increased your capital so that you decrease the probability of existing from the market, yes? You are borrowing for investment. That affects your probability of exit. Exit is an optimal decision in the model. Okay? The only thing that I'm not allowing is default in this model. But it's also very simple to extend the model. Okay, let me go on and this was just the way to me. The idea is that when you are investing less, your probability of exit is increases if you're a small firm. And it's something that is observed in the data. Also, because if there is a high cost of financing, the entry cost increases. Entry cost doesn't only increase because it's a high cost, so they need to invest more, like they need to pay for investment more, but also the market becomes less attractive for them in this situation. Okay? So what happens is that when interest rate increases, number of investors increases. Okay?
What difference between Z and
Which one? Which one?
Z and F.
Z is for the probability of people aggregate shock. and D is an individual collective.
The previous graph, the productivity
Yeah. Sorry, we changed the little, so it should be for sure. Yeah.
the previous.
No, it should be. So my cursor changed it, and apparently I stayed in this picture.
So what is the extraordinary productivity?
So productivity should be.
That's the only extraordinary.
Yes, it's the only extraordinary. Okay, so what I find is that when the interest rate increases, the equity increases, and when interest rate increases, entry decreases in the model, okay? So to validate the mechanism, first, the only channel that works the interest rate is the borrowing cost. So I wanted to show that the working capital constraint generates the life cycle dynamics of the financing rate that is also this data. And in the data, recently they published a paper that shows that the leverage increases in size, and it also comes with capital, etc. And decreases in age. And this simple leverage constraint that is in the model and allowing the firm to live over time, it goes to account the finance difference, like which financing of the firm over time. Why it's important? Because different leverage means different type of constraints on the interest rate. Yes, if you are at age here and you don't need really to borrow, then you're not affected by increasing interest rates. The firms that are going to be affected is small firms. These are all shown in the data that interest rate affects mostly the small firms and medium-sized firms. That's going to also be accounted in the model. Okay, let me do this empirical external finance dependence. Besides the fact that the model generates the typical dynamics of this data, what we did is that we want to show that in 2004, the firms that had higher finance dependence was handled. Okay, so toward the end, we use different type of measures, but the most important is the Dragon and Windows measure who create the external finance dependency. So for each firm, we calculate the following measure. We take the capital expenditure minus the cash flow and divide the capital expenditure. What it tells you that if you have a lot of capital expenditure but a lower cash flow, then you are more dependent on the external finance. Okay? This measure is calculated for the United States firms for the computer. Computer is more public firms, and it's not a representative of general firms. And it's calculated for firms that are 10 years and older. Okay? The reason why this measure still catches whether the sector needs more finance or not, external finance, is that these firms are already mature, and when you check their finance dependence, that's not going to be due to contract that they will not be able to borrow more because these are already a big firm and they can borrow as much as possible. So using the firms that are mature and they can borrow and they are not constrained is going to tell us whether sectors are going to be more finance dependent or not. Then we are going to take this measure from the United States with the hypothesis that we believe that every sector is going to look like each other, whether it's in the United States or in Portugal. And we're going to use this measure and we're going to decompose these sectors with high leverage and low leverage. Oh my God. So what you're going to do, if you do an entry dynamic, high and low leverage, what you're going to find out that the sectors that are high leverage, total entry drops significantly more than low leverage. And if you compare the, so before the even Great Recession, because this one was also a financial crisis, yes, high level sectors increase more because they have home, credit home. Then during the Great Recession, the high level sectors will get affected more, but because it was also much of the things that they are close to that. But then during the financial crisis, so they were affected more. Why they say it's different? There's another question, could be a propagation that we are trying to explore, and this is an exit dynamic. It seems that in the low level sectors are high because we like try to use the 2007 and then like everything in 2007. But what we see is that the difference between high and low level sectors is decreasing through the 2010-2012. Again, claiming that the additional shock really affected the exit margin. during the time. Actually, if you use different memorization in 2010, so you see that they could be lower, higher receptor, increasing in continuum, and they convert after the 74. So anyway, I guess my time is up. What we showed, yeah, and then, anyway, a lot of things. But what we did for so far is that we wanted to show the entry methods and exit for the propagation of the current default shock. And actually what we're finding out is that intensity margin measures most in the short run, but once the current risk is resolved, the shock is resolved, it's going to go back and everything is going to be. But if you have an entry and exit chain in the model, you are going to get a persistent flow for the economy, and they are going to be most important. And that's going to be a main channel that is explain the propagation of the current default shock. And yes, sorry for taking more time than needed. If you have questions or comments, please let me know. I will be happy to talk to you after the presentation or any other day.
All right. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.